Big time show here at NBA Now by Chat Sports. We're going to start with Ja Morant. Could the Memphis Grizzlies actually look to trade the former second overall pick this NBA offseason? And speaking of highly touted prospects, Cooper Flagg, is he going to stay at Duke? The consensus number one player in this upcoming draft had some interesting feelings on that. I am Nic Rohloff. This is NBA Now by Chat Sports. But before we get into everything, are you excited the NBA is back? We had a little bit of a break with the All-Star games and I guess weekend. I don't know how you feel about it, but are you happy real games are back starting tonight? Hit that thumbs up icon if you are. All right, we're going to start with Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies because they have been up and down over the past couple of seasons, but Ja Morant is back after missing practically the entire 23 and 24 season and could actually be on the trade block. Yes, you heard that correctly. Howard Beck, the NBA insider, said that he's constantly checking in with executives around the trade deadline about okay, what we saw, what we didn't see, what's next. And in this league, you're always on the lookout for who's the next wave of stars that are going to get dealt, right? Well, somebody out of the blue said, keep an eye on Ja Morant this summer. I'm just saying it's one of those things I'm just kind of keeping an eye on if they were to flame out early. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense for me until for the Memphis Grizzlies to potentially trade Ja Morant. But I did kind of see a reasoning on why Memphis could move on from Morant. Ja has had issues off of the court. We know he got suspended for the 25 games last season due to the multiple IG lives, flashing guns. That is just something that the NBA didn't want to tolerate, and they suspended him 25 games. Completely understandable. So he misses times because of that, and you have the off-the-court concerns on that. But you also have an injury history, knees, shoulders, hips. Ja is someone who gets to the basket, takes some hard contacts, some hard falls, and it is tough to kind of foresee his playing style being suitable for a 10, 12-plus year career of him being a lot of an elite type of player. Yeah, right now when he's still young and athletic, but when he gets to 32, 33 years old, is his body going to break down? His play style also right now might not be that conducive to winning. Similar to Trae Young in Atlanta, they don't play a lot of defense personally. They have the ball in their hands a ton and aren't the most efficient in terms of shooting beyond the arc. Now, with all of that being said, I would still be stunned if the Grizzlies traded Ja Morant. Think about this. Memphis is not a destination for people to get traded to or sign in free agency. So the Grizzlies are tasked with having to build their roster via trades and via the draft. And they hit on Ja Morant with the second overall pick. They hit on Jaren Jackson Jr. with a lottery pick. Are they going to be willing to trade away one of the most famous and high-profiled players in the league that gives their franchise meaning and notoriety? I don't know if they will be. I would be shocked if they traded Ja Morant. But what say you? Do you think they're going to trade Ja? Type T if you think they could trade Ja. Type K if you think they ultimately keep him. I would be on the side of him staying in Memphis. But if he were to get traded, there is going to be a lot of suitors potentially for Morant. This is one of the better point guards in the NBA. And although I have questions about how winning basketball he plays, he still is very good, averaging consistently over 25 a game over the last 4 seasons. We mentioned the 23-24 season where he missed some times, but he's efficient. Although not from three, not your standard efficiency that people like to look at, but he finishes most of his shots at a high rate, almost sitting at 50%, but above 45%. He's also an elite playmaker that generates a lot of attention to himself, which allows him to kick it to open shooters. And Memphis is the number 2 seed in the Western Conference right now. We'll ultimately see how the second half and final 25-30 games of the season goes for Memphis. But this is a team that was a top seed in the West just a couple of seasons ago, got bounced early in the NBA postseason. And I would like to see Memphis put together a good playoffs. This is a big postseason for the Grizzlies because you saw Howard Beck say it. Could Memphis try to turn a different direction for their roster building this upcoming offseason if they get bounced early into the postseason? I could absolutely see that being the case. So I would, if I'm a Memphis fan, if you want Ja Morant to stay, I would like to see this team make it at least to the second round and be competitive in that second round series, if not getting to the Western Conference Finals. In just a second, we are going to talk about some fits for Ja Morant, but make sure you are subscribed because when the NBA playoffs do come around in a month and a half, 2 months, we will have you covered. So join the channel today here at Chat Sports. I think when you talk about Ja Morant suitors, I think it makes sense for a lot of teams in the Western Conference to be interested, with a couple of Southeastern teams in the East as well. I think when you look at those two teams in the East, the Heat and Orlando Magic, Miami needs a true point guard. Would they want to pair Ja up with Tyler Hero? I'm not sure, but they do need a true point guard to kind of help complement Bam and Tyler. Orlando needs a true guard as well. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are an unbelievable good wing duo at the 3 and 4, but their backcourt is holding them back as a team. Could they get Ja with Paolo and Franz? That'd be certainly an interesting big three. When you look at the three teams in the West, Houston probably needs a long-term point guard. Fred VanVleet's contract could be movable in a trade, plus they have a bunch of draft picks. The Timberwolves are interesting. Mike Conley's getting up there in age. They probably would like to see a person take the load off of Anthony Edwards' shoulders in terms of creating offense. They were hoping it was going to be Julius Randle in that trade. Not been the case. And then Sacramento, they lost De'Aaron Fox, but could they flip some of those assets they got in that trade to pair up Ja Morant with Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine? Maybe they move off DeMar DeRozan due to age. It's an intriguing possible scenario where all 5 of these teams could be interested in the services of Ja Morant. All right, coming up in just a second, we're going to shift our attention to the 2025 NBA Draft. And Cooper Flagg, is he going to stay at Duke? But before we do that, let's talk about Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform. I play Prize Picks every single day. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stat projections, and you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's the best way to get in on the action. It's legal in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. They offer weekly promotions that lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Think Steph Curry will get more than 5 3-pointers? Giannis for more than 35 points? Cook up your hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. But before the full basketball slate returns, you can go in season-long projections, but I actually do have one because the Lakers and LeBron James play on Wednesday afternoon. I'm going more than on LeBron, 24 points, and I'll pair that up with the Thursday action with Chris Paul, more than 7.5 assists. Just one example of how you can play. Join me and the millions of others on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's get to Cooper Flagg now because this is someone who is very, very interesting as an NBA prospect. The best prospect since Victor Wembanyama. And it's hard for me to really say that he is going to be as good as Wemby. But when you think about the last 5 or 6 #1 picks and how highly touted they were coming out of college, I would probably put Cooper Flagg #2 against Wemby. Listen, Anthony Edwards, very good. Cade Cunningham, very good. Paolo Banchero, very good. I would put Cooper Flagg ahead of all of them, just behind Wemby when you look at the last 6 or 7 years. But is he even going to come out? Because Flagg, in an interview, in a discussion with the New York Times/The Athletic, says that, I want to come back next year. And that turns some heads, raised some eyebrows, because if Cooper Flagg actually returned to Duke University for a second season, it would change everything in terms of the NBA landscape. One, it would make this draft class a lot more intriguing because then you'd have to consider who is going to be that new #1 prospect. But you'd also have, assuming he would leave Duke after year 2, an unbelievable 2026 class that would include Cooper Flagg and AJ Dembasta, who is a #1 type of guy already, who is playing at BYU next season. But right now, Cooper Flagg is my #1 prospect without a question. And if he were to remain in school, well, then the question of who the #1 pick is would be in rotation for 4 guys probably. I have right now, as I do my early scouting, Dylan Harper, Kasparas Yakachonis, VJ Edgecombe, and Ace Bailey as 2 through 5. I think all 4 of those players are in a similar tier in terms of NBA prospects, Cooper Flagg's in a tier of his own to me. Those 4 guys come in next, and based off team need and fit, any one of those 4 could go number 1 overall. And then you have really talented mid to late lottery guys like Igor Demen, Trey Johnson, Liam McNeely, Kamon Malawach, and Derek Queen. But Flagg is just such a head and shoulders prospect above everyone else. It would be fascinating if he was taken out of this class. And he is a consensus number 1. Not just for me, but almost every NBA draft expert out there. I don't think there's one person right now that has Cooper Flagg not as the number 1 prospect. I think the word generational is thrown out too often for NBA prospects, or heck, you hear young talent as well, but I truly believe Cooper Flagg is a generational type prospect that can change any type of franchise right away. He is a hybrid 3-4 who can guard 1 through 4. He can score at all 3 levels. And once he gets more weight onto his frame and gets acclimated to an NBA lifestyle and weight training program, this is going to be an absolute demon that's an all-NBA guy, I would say probably within 2 or 3 seasons with no questions about it. He is someone that I can't wait to watch in the NBA. But hear me out. You heard me. Is he going to stay? Will Cooper Flagg stay at Duke? I want you guys to get your answers down in the comment section. It's prediction time. Type S if you think he stays. Type L if you think he leaves. I actually want to talk about Cooper Flagg more as a prospect here because I talked about his ability to score on all 3 levels. He gets to the free throw line as well, averages 20 and 8 a night, but also can dish it. He's not like a true guard or anything like that. He is a wing, but with ball handling ability, and he just draws so much attention at the college level that he finds open teammates often, and he's able to just score efficiently no matter how many players are given attention to him. Well, you look at some other stats as well for Flagg. He's got 48% shooting, 36% three-point shooting, and 81% free throw shooting on a staggering 6 attempts a night. He gets to the line every single game he plays, but he is also unbelievably good on the defensive end of the floor, averaging 2.8 stocks per game, 1.6 steals, 1.2 blocks. He does it on all phases of the game, and he's making history for the Duke Blue Devils and in the ACC. The first ACC player in 25 years with 500 points, 100 assists, and 30 blocks in the regular season. Check notes February 17th. Yeah, we still have 2 weeks to go in ACC play. The fact that he set this ACC record this early in the last 25 years is absolutely ridiculous. In the last 25 years, that includes players like Paolo Banchero, includes players like Carmelo Anthony. I guess he was in the Big East at the time, but you get the point. All these North Carolina players that have been going high in the draft. This is rare energy, rare history that Cooper Flagg is putting himself in. I'm going to continue to pound the table. This is a franchise-changing player. He would immediately change the trajectory of your team, your organization, if you're able to win the lottery and become the number 1 pick. But going back to the question of if could Flagg stay at Duke, I think who wins the lottery is widely dependent on that. The lottery happens in mid-May. The withdrawal date for the NBA draft is around the early June portion. So Flagg would know who the number 1 pick is and who his future team is before he could withdraw. And I think he ultimately goes to the NBA due to guaranteed money. But I think Duke could muster up the same type of contract or 1-year type of money for Flagg. Flagg, going to make $11, $12 million in year 1 of his rookie contract if he was the number 1 overall pick. I think Duke could get something very similar to that. But the guaranteed multi-year facet of an NBA rookie contract I think would be too good to pass up. But what if the lottery goes pretty bad, right? The Charlotte Hornets get the number 1 pick, and although you might say Flagg, LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller would be good a trio, I would say that. But what if he doesn't want to go to a bad Charlotte team, a bad Utah team? What if he doesn't want to do that and he just says, you know what, I actually will go back to college? With that being said, I'm intrigued with the Cooper Flagg scenario. I think there's still a high likelihood he goes to the NBA draft because how would he just be able to pass that up? But I will certainly be keeping my eye on that, and we will keep you updated here on the channel, which is why you need to stay subscribed. weekly NBA content. And as we get closer to the NBA playoffs, we will ramp up our NBA coverage as we do with all big events in the NBA. So hit that sub button and join us here at the channel.